2013 is behind us. What a year it's been, no? For me personally, I've been a student for the entirety of the year, which means I've had a lot less sit by the TV and play video games time, and a lot more sit on the bus and or train doing nothing time. In other words, there'll be a surprisingly high amount of portable games on this thing. As for the quantity of games I've gotten this year, they're about average. The quality, however, was exceedingly high. So much so that I couldn't limit myself to only 10 games, as I'd be leaving out 2 lovely games by doing so. Therefore, here's my top 12 greatest games I've bought in 2013. Oh yeah, and very personal list, don't like it, that's fine, make your own list, yada yada. Let's do this! Number 12. Here's a really bad idea that turned into a pretty sweet game. Have you ever wanted to play a 2D platformer where you, get this, can't jump? Probably not. But in the hands of Capcom, we got Bionic Commando, where you play as Rad Spencer, a secret agent with a robot arm he can use to swing around stuff, whilst infiltrating an enemy base in the brightest shade of green he could possibly find. Or if you want the really short version, you're Inspector Gadget and your final objective is to blow up Adolf Hitler's head. No, really. Number 11. Speaking of NES-era Capcom, remember the Capcom Disney games? For you who don't know, back in the 80s and 90s, Capcom used to make amazing games based on Disney's films and TV shows. The peak of this little partnership were probably DuckTales and Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and its low point was probably the good effort but didn't really work Tailspin game. Somewhere around the middle was Darkwing Duck, the game I got this year. My game is sadly in German, but who cares? It's still a blast battling crooks like Quackerjack, Megavolt, Bushroot, and with a final battle against Ironbeak? What? No Negaduck? Oh well, still awesome. Number 10. And from one Disney Capcom game to another, we have Aladdin, which I also got a German copy of. How do I keep doing that? Not much to say about this, except that it simply is tons of fun to jump around as Aladdin, throwing apples and jumping and stuff. It also goes to places where the movie didn't, like the inside of Genie's lamp, which is probably one of my favorite stages in the game. I also must mention the music, and especially the fantastic 16-bit renditions of the films Friend Like Me and A Whole New World. Number 9. Hey, I thought you said there would be lots of portable games, so where are they? Settle down, old person with lack of patience, because here's merely one of the portable games I got this year, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. This has to be one of the best looking games on the GBA, and it's also tons of fun and really addictive. Basically, Donkey Kong is mad because some company has made mini Mario toys, so he decides to steal them, and the real Mario must run after him and put a stop to his misdeeds. It's a Mario puzzle platformer. Mario's got some great moves, the levels are ingeniously designed, and it will kick your ass and make you beg for more. That to me is a game doing a lot of things right. Number 8. Here's another bad idea that, in the hands of Capcom, makes it a great game. Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All. It's a defense attorney simulator. This should be one of the most boring things ever. I mean, who would find that interesting aside from real-life courtroom workers, or people studying to become that? So what makes it work? Amazing writing, oddly enough. But also a wonderfully colorful cast of characters. I know this franchise is really popular, but the reason it's not higher on my list is because it's basically 2 games in one. In one of which you are defending your client in court, which I love. In the other, you are walking around on the crime scene looking for evidence and talking to potential suspects, which I just don't find as interesting. Though maybe that's just me. Number 7. Donkey Kong 64. I hear a lot of people badmouth this game for having too much stuff in it, which has always sounded weird to me. I don't like this game because there's too much to do and has little to no moments of me having nothing to do. Isn't that a good thing? But yeah, I get it. It's too long and too stuffed for most people. I feel kinda the same way about many JRPGs. But since I absolutely love 3D platformers, and this is a 3D platformer with 5 different characters, I love this. It's just a shame that I managed to buy a copy with a dead internal battery, and I'm not getting anywhere past the 3rd level in one sitting. Number 6. Remember way back in my 10 greatest games I bought in 2011 video where I said Mario Kart Double Dash was my all-time favorite Mario Kart game? I still stand by that point, but I say Mario Kart 7 for the 3DS is my 2nd favorite. This is a great way to evolve the Mario Kart franchise. Adding motorcycles in Mario Kart Wii didn't really work for me, so I'm glad they kept the cars and gave them gliders and aquatic qualities. It doesn't come into play quite as much as the trailers led me to believe, but it's still a blast every time. Though there is one thing I don't really like about the game, aside from the kinda iffy title and the fact that Shy Guy sounds like a low-pitched cat, and that's the character roster. We have characters like Wiggler, Lakitu, and even freaking Queen Bee, but leave out Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Bowser Jr., Toadette, even Birdo and Waluigi, and they pretty much only live through the Mario spin-offs. But at least they got rid of the Thundercloud, so that's good. And strangely enough, the one thing Mario Kart 7 has done better than anything is making me really excited about Mario Kart 8. Yeah, we're apparently going with numbered sequels now, so no Mario Kart 3D or Mario Kart U. I mean, sure, 64 is a number, but Mario Kart 64 wasn't the 64th Mario Kart game, and I'm rambling now. Next game. Number 5. Yeah, I bet a lot of you just had a massive rush of nostalgia just by hearing that. I grew up with the original Castlevania for the NES, owned it for about 10 years before selling much of my collection, and I never beat it. I bought it again last year and actually managed to beat it. As you can understand, it was a pretty awesome feeling of accomplishment. But even taking the game on its own, it's an early masterpiece, well worthy of its place in video game history, and not only for creating Konami's most recognized franchise. Yeah, I'd placed it over Metal Gear and Contra any day of the week. It's got great levels, solid controls, and an amazing soundtrack. What's not to like? Oh yeah, and it's also insanely difficult, so don't be too hard on yourself if you can't beat it. Took me almost 20 years after all. Number 4. October 2013 will be remembered not for the fact that I turned 24, but because the entire world went Pokémon crazy. Obviously, this had just a little to do with the release of the brand spanking new and highly acclaimed games Pokémon X and Pokémon Y. And since everyone was talking about it, I obviously had to latch onto the bandwagon as well. Now the big question on everyone's mind, which game did I get? That's right, Pokémon Sapphire. What, were you expecting me to buy either X or Y? Well, I would, but I really felt like rediscovering the Hoenn region. Overall, I think the third generation gets a lot of undeserved hate. I always hear people say that the first generation was amazing, and the second just made it better, and the third ruined it all. I disagree. I think the third generation did lots of great things. The 2-on-2 battles is a great addition, and diving underwater was fun. The gym leaders range from awesome to really bland. And I for one like many of the new Pokémon here. Plus and Minun are still my favorite among the obligatory Pikachu knockoffs. Both Torchic and Mudkip are adorable starters, Rats and its evolutions were great, and yeah, I had a blast going around Hoenn as young lady Snaz. We'll see if and when I'll pick up X or Y, but until then, I'll be busy having fun in Hoenn. Number 3. Have you ever tried out a game or franchise you've never touched before and been struck with the thought of, why haven't I played this before? Followed closely by, I must get my hands on more games in this franchise. That happened to me early last year when I got my hands on Professor Layton and Pandora's Box. Or the Diabolical Box for you Americans. This game is amazing. The animation in the cutscenes make you feel like you're in a Miyazaki film. The story and character design just adds to that feeling. The voice acting is wonderful. And I haven't even begun talking about the puzzles, the meat of the game. They are really varied, with difficulties ranging from did I do it wrong or is it really that easy, to I don't understand what you mean here, to you cheated Layton, you so cheated. And it's never not fun. For something that's essentially a collection of puzzle games, it has more polish than it probably deserves. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So don't be surprised if you'll find at least one Layton game when I make a list of the greatest games I bought in 2014. Number 2. It was tough, really tough, to choose between last year's two favorites for me. One of them is a childhood classic that's just as fun to play now as it was all those years ago. And the other is a game I missed out on as a kid that I expected to be good, probably even great, but that turned out to be amazing. After a long time of thinking about it, however, I realized that while still fantastic, my childhood favorite weren't quite as good as the other one. It is therefore that I, with a heavy heart, reward the second place on this list to Mega Man 2. This just might be one of my favorite games for the NES, and probably the favorite of a lot of others too. What's there to say that hasn't been said time and time again? The controls are spot on, the level design is almost perfect, the challenge is just right, the graphics are great for the time, the bosses are nice and varied, as are the power-ups they give you, and the music? Oh god, the music! It just might be the greatest overall soundtrack on the system, it is that awesome. So is there something about it I don't like? Well, yes. One of the later bosses is a room with blinking lights that can only be defeated with a crash bomber, which is also the only thing that can break the blocks that exist in the same room. And you just have enough ammo to defeat it if you get there with a full tank. That's probably the only real complaint that I have on this one. So what could possibly be better than that? Number 1. While talking about my number 1 choice, one famous YouTuber once said, and I paraphrase, "I know that people love and appreciate this game, but I don't think they love and appreciate it as much as they should." Okay, I'm not gonna play around with you anymore. The best game I bought in 2013 is... Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Where to even begin with this masterpiece of mind-blowity? Yeah, that's totally a word. Just look at it! Have you ever seen so much pure joy in a video game before? That alone would be enough to assure the spot on this list, but they went further than that, as it is also near flawless as far as gameplay goes. But I don't like this game, it's for babies. No, it's not. It's got a very colorful and unique art style, reminiscent of child drawings, but it looks consistently beautiful, and contains some stuff in here that really pushed the system's capabilities. I also personally think that this style gives it a lot of personality, and it's just adorable. But Baby Mario is so totally annoying. I never thought he was. I actually think his screams were a great addition in the game. He only screams when you get hit and have mere seconds to retrieve him before he's grabbed by a bunch of flying toadies. So Baby Mario's cries just adds to the stress of this situation, which is why it's there. And if you don't like his cries, just grab him and he will shut up. But this isn't even a Mario game, it's a Yoshi game. I'm sorry, but is this even an argument we're having? Of course it's a Mario game! You have Mario in the title, you have Mario on your back, you have classic Mario enemies such as Shy Guys, Piranha Plants and Koopa Troopas. The fact that some people insist on saying this isn't a Mario game just because you play as Yoshi for most of the time is something I never understood. Not a Mario game. You also insisted that Ocarina of Time is not a Zelda game because you play as Link. Yoshi Island is so a Mario game, and absolutely comparable with greats like Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. In fact, controversial opinion, but I just might like Yoshi's Island a bit more than both of those. Yeah, I said it. Yoshi's Island is amazing, one of the best games in the prolific video game franchise, which makes it more than worthy of the top spot on my list.